Hello and welcome to the How to Get an Analytics Job podcast, where we will help you discover where you fit into the analytics marketplace, what skills you should build, and how to land your analytics dream job. I'm John David, analytics agency owner and educator.
And I'm Elizabeth Illig, a private career coach and higher education professional. In this podcast, we will not only help you land your next analytics job, but we will give you the tools and strategies to level up your career.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. This week, we are going to continue to talk about networking, and we have Christopher Scott, who is a Tableau ambassador, an overall analytics expert, and he is also the leader of the Raleigh Tableau user group. How are you doing today, Christopher?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, John David.
What is the value of a user group?
So I think probably one of the number one values is the diversity of the community that's there. Every single quarter, so we hold our user groups quarterly, and we showcase the diversity of companies and positions. And I actually do a viz, and there are a few out there on my Tableau public profile. If your listeners go search for me, it's CG Scott DVA. You can search for me on Tableau public, public.tableau.com. And so I create a visualization every single quarter of all the attendees and see not only where are people coming from, because we like to see the diversity, here in the triangle, but also we like to see which companies are utilizing Tableau and what are the different positions that people hold. And honestly, it's really all over the map. Obviously, we have a lot of analysts, but we've started to get a lot of students. We've got a lot of managers and executives. So I think that I'd say the number one value is really just the diversity of the community that's there.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a lot of value in having a diverse network. So this seems like an excellent tool to help build out your network. And specifically to tie it back to how to get an analytics job, I know that you guys host a segment called Have a Job, Need a Job.
That's right. So you mentioned networking. I think one of the biggest the things that helps you to stand out amongst the the crowd here is really just getting your face out there. So step one, right, is just getting to the user group, and so that goes a long way. And so being involved in your user group and just being there, I think that's the first and often the hardest step, right? But then I think it's also a matter of putting yourself out there. So applying to speak, talking to the user group leader and speaking at the user groups. And then our user group does, as you said, hosts a Have a Job, Need a Job session. And so it does no one any good, either the hirer or the hiree, just to sit in the corner, show up and think that you're just going to get a job. You have to at some point poke your head out of the sand and raise your hand and say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I've done. And I'm looking for new opportunities or my first opportunity if it's you're coming out of college. So I think there's always some opportunity there, but I think that's really a key facet is making sure that you're not only there, but you're active, you're engaged, and you're cooperative as well.
Yeah, I mean, so what this brings to mind is the concept of scale. So if you're individually talking to people, I mean, you may talk to 15 people a night, but if you stand up in that segment or if you're giving a presentation, you're talking to everybody in the entire room. So if there's 60 people there, they all now know that you're an analyst that's looking for a sales analytics job or a marketing analytics job. And they're going to come up to you after and say, hey, I've got a position to fill. Let me get your contact information. Let's set up an interview.
Absolutely. And I think it speaks volumes about the type of person that you are to be able to stand up. Even the most introverted person can put themselves out there, stand up and talk about themselves. And so I think there are definitely a lot of those opportunities there. But I mentioned kind of stepping out and being active and engaged, because I think the best analysts are ones that I've found that are, as I said about the user group, they're cooperative, they're sharing, and they're engaged and plugged in. And so that really, I've said this to a few different people, but being a good analyst or even in this role in this Tableau community and the analytics community, it's not one where you're head down, nose in the computer screen from 9 to 5 and coding and developing. If that's your ideal dream job, where you have to talk to no one and you look at a black computer screen all day with code, analytics and data visualization and the Tableau career is probably not the right path for you. And so we embody that spirit as part of our user group. And then, when you think about when you lift even your head up another 50,000 feet to the Tableau community at large, we are a community based software, and there's not really, I think a few different vendors are starting to kind of latch on to that it's investing in the community is something that really drives not only sales, obviously that's the ultimate goal, right? But also it drives growth and engagement and brand, if you want to talk about marketing, right? Brand loyalty, all of those things. So companies, especially like Tableau, that really invest in growing the community and providing that outlet, are ones that are successful. And then ultimately at the end of the day, if you want to be successful in that arena, you have to be plugged in to that community, and the user group is nothing more than an outlet or kind of a local embodiment of the larger data and analytics and Tableau community.
Oh, fantastic. So I'm curious, do you have any quick tips or pointers of how a student or someone seeking to get an analytics job would approach a user event?
So I think the first one, obviously just show up. Like I said,
Right.
Show up, make sure you get your name tag. We've been, really, really fortunate to get a little label printer. And so we make it even easier at our user group meetings. But I think that just go and get a name tag, make sure your name tag's there. I always say bring business cards, but if you've got a LinkedIn account, I've started doing this at conferences and user group meetings. LinkedIn actually allows you to, create a little QR code. So change the background on your phone. I know I've showed a few people this and they were just blown away. And I'm like, it's 2019. Like it shouldn't be that much of, it's like every time I go to pay for something with my Apple Pay with my phone or my watch, and everybody's just blown away. I'm like, it shouldn't blow you away at this point. So I'm not saying anything that's too novel or unique, but certainly, go and create your QR code with your LinkedIn profile, change the desktop background on your lock screen of your phone. And then anytime anybody you introduce yourself, say, hey, pull out your phone, and all with the modern phones, all they have to do is scan it with their camera, no app necessary, and it will link directly to your LinkedIn profile. So really easy way to just keep that connection going. And business cards, I mean, I have a stack of 500 in my desk and have probably used 10 or 15. So it's not what it once was. Right.
Right.
So I think having those really simple introductory steps, just showing up, being prepared, and then being engaged. Obviously, I mean, come in ready to talk to somebody, ready to ask a question. I, as a user group leader, I don't want to say this, so please have your listeners take this with a grain of salt. But come ready to complain. Honestly, we do as user group leaders. I know you can probably attest to this, but
Right.
we do like to have our trophies polished and shined and be touted anytime we can. But honestly, what makes us grow as leaders is the ability to hear from you, and so be willing to to complain, say you didn't like something, you would have preferred something else. And so this is how we get better, because we continue to listen to your voice. So come ready, just be plugged in and engaged even from the first time out. I say this because it's literally what I did. Got connected with two guys that I consider my mentors. One of which is currently working at Tableau and is just an absolute rock star. And he is one of the smartest Tableau guys I know. And we met on the very first Tableau user group, but it's only because I went ready to be engaged and plugged in, because that's where the value is. Leading, I don't want to use too many analogies, but, leading a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I mean, you can go to that well all day long, but if you're not drinking, if you're not engaging, if you're not being, proactive and involved, it's really nothing more than just a little something you can check off your list. So, I'd say that's probably my biggest encouragement for any new listener, anybody that has not attended a user group and wants to attend one.
Well, so one of the other guests that we're going to have come on and talk about networking is Jasmine O'Connell, and she only hires people within her network. So she's only hiring people that she knows directly, or maybe are second tier or third tier connections. Mm-hmm. So this is a great way of, because you don't want to only spam the hiring managers. You probably want to make connections with other people that are on your level. And who knows, maybe you could like spin off like a student group or a study group where you guys work on data vises together or work on like a community project. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of opportunity in just connecting with others who have a similar goal as yours.
I mean, absolutely. The hiring managers are consistently reaching out to me. I mean, even just personally, managers reach out to me on a weekly basis, asking about different people within my network, or different people that I've reached out to, or even if I am connected, like if I'm connected to them on LinkedIn. I just had a hiring manager reach out to me yesterday, and he said, "Hey, you've got a pretty strong network. I know such and such and such and such. How do they, can you kind of elaborate on them? Would they be, interested in this position? Would they be a good fit for here?" And so those are only because I've made those connections within the user group. And as we had talked about before, one of the positions that I hired for a few years earlier was specifically because I had known this person from their involvement in the community, from who their connections were, and how engaged they were, both within and without their job. I think that's a really big piece, because I think you can be completely and 100% sold out to what you're doing at your company, and if it never leaves those four walls, then I mean you're not helping yourself. I don't think you're helping your company, and you're certainly not helping others within your community if you're not willing to share that same enthusiasm and passion outside of your job. And so yeah, I think there's just a lot. And as you kind of alluded to, I mean, we're not guaranteed that we're going to have this same job in 10, 15 years. So establishing that network, being a community, and kind of again, sorry for the cliches, but being a team player and being out there and really engaging and connecting and plugging in. Somebody said something a few years back. They said, this has really stuck with me because this is my story too, is they said, as hard as I ran into this community, the harder they ran back. I think we get that. We get kind of that mental image, right, of running into, we're not running into a brick wall, obviously, but we're running into this big, open-armed, just community that is willing to, to care for you, willing to help you, willing to educate you, and willing to call you to the mat when you say something stupid, or you put out a bad, a bad visualization, or you're maybe that data is not right, and you're just telling the wrong story. They're willing to call you to the mat and be that tough love. But again, it doesn't happen if you hold yourself at arm's length, because then you're only going to give them that much, and they can't see you, flaws and warts and all, and still, and that's what, they still love you, flaws and warts and all. But it's only as hard as you're willing to run into that. So so they said that a few years ago, at Tableau conference, and I still hold to it to this day. So every single thing that I do is never met with, oh, I feel like I'm giving too much of myself, because this community is just not that way. And I've never been part of a community that is so reciprocal. And so so you get what you put in, but you're certainly going to be worth it in the long run.
Yeah. And back to your earlier point about having hiring managers reaching out to you, I've literally had 3 reach out to me this week. So the person in like the leadership position in these user groups, if you can connect with them in a meaningful way, then that will bring in a whole lot of opportunity to you just over the long run, because it's in my best interest, it's in your best interest to kind of be a connector. And if I'm connecting with students or people who are looking for jobs, that's awesome. That helps kind of drive forward, one of my main goals of getting deeper into the community. So do you have any closing remarks or anything that you want to end on?
So I think the overarching thrust that we've been discussing here is the value of community, the value of the user group, and really the user group is nothing more than that channel, right? It is a place where you can find like-minded individuals. Another great opportunity is not even just in the user groups, but just in the local communities. I mean, data and analytics, we know, is not going anywhere. And so there are meetups and groups popping up, even within your organization, finding like-minded individuals working on, even in different teams, that either have a Tableau license or are just interested in data, and really throwing tools out the window and just getting together, grab a beer, grab some coffee, go and just talk about analytics. And your network is, like that comment about running, as hard as you run into it, your network is as big as you make it. And so I think that's going to set you up for success, not only in the data and analytics space, but just in your career in the long run. There's only so much value that can be gained from you showing how much you can code or how many dashboards you can build. Mm-hmm. And so I see that turnover in the companies that I've worked for, and just in personal life. I mean, it really does. At the end of the day, none of that matters. What really matters is the people you surround yourself with, and the community and network that you've built. So I think there's a lot of value there. So just get involved, get plugged in. Like I said, if you're not willing to lift your head out of your cube and off of your keyboard, then maybe data analytics is not so make that decision now before you go any further, any more of these conversations. Make that decision now. Is all you want to do, just code 24/7, or do you actually want to use that other 90% of your brain and think? And I think that the people that are really successful in our industry are those people that can think, and they think outside of the box. They ask questions, they probe, and they get under people's skin. I mean, for lack of a better word, they really do have the ability to be analytical, not just on paper or on a computer screen, but really in everything they do. Do they think analytically, and are they ready to solve problems? So I think, and that doesn't come with being able to type the number of spaces and the right code the right way. So I think that's a big difference. And the only other thing I'll say, because I could really talk about this for a while, but I think the only other thing I'll say, and I've said this to every single intern and college student and anybody else I've ever talked about, there are countries around the world that really prize the technical aspects of both from engineering and computer science and everything that we quote unquote value and they value. And hands down, they will beat us to the races every single time. But what really helps us to stand apart is the ability, is the critical thinking, is the ability to actually think and ask questions. And if this code that we're writing doesn't make sense, having the wherewithal and the the stones to go to whoever assigned it to you or your manager or the business owner and say, why are you doing this way? Why are you being so inefficient? And when we can, it's a problem solving mentality. And so don't focus too much on learning every single thing that you feel like you've got to learn to be an expert. Just be good at solving problems, be good at listening to people, be good at asking for help. I mean, that's what the whole community is all about, and the user groups, and is about knowing who to go to when you have a problem. And so I think those types of skills will really set us apart and help us to accelerate our growth and go beyond merely just keystrokes on a keyboard in code. So
awesome. That's some excellent advice. I really appreciate your time today.
absolutely.